The number one show I know that we all agree on is Break the Bank with X Lurk and Deion.
What's good, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of Break the Bank. As you can tell, it's going a lot quicker already. We don't have Lurk's slow ass here talking to you. How you doing, X?
Chilling, man. I'm excited to wrap this up in about 17 minutes. You know what I'm saying? Without Lurk's ass here to talk over us, ask us a question, interrupt us shortly thereafter, and then proceed on a 7-minute monologue immediately after cutting us off. You know, so I'm excited to get a word in, you know? Really.
7-minute monologue with 2 minutes of talking.
No, exactly. I'm like, you know, like that could have been an email, bro. There's no reason that, you know, that took that long, but, you know, shout out to Lurk.
I've been watching the Cosby Show, and there's all these like stops to let like the crowd laugh. That's basically how Lurk talks.
And then you think he's like stopping for you to like maybe counter his point. No, he's just taking a smoke break. You know what I'm saying? Or, you know, letting the tequila settle into his system before he continues on about his rant. You know what I'm saying?
He's collecting the final 50% of his thought. You know, he only
and he has the greatest microphone in recorded history because him talking at a normal level just completely overwhelms any other sound. So it's tremendous content. You know what I'm saying? I'm excited.
Well, listen, I'll give you an ISO. The clip's been posted all over MMG, everything. Messi to Inter Miami. You called it, what was that, December, January?
December, January, yeah. And shout out to Mike Ryan, the producer of the LIV and PGA show, because he is plugged in and he's plugged into certain arenas, but I guess he has a source at the Inter Miami squad, and so he was just aware of like the negotiations that have been ongoing, but honestly, I think the only reason that this went off was of how creative they got. Because look, let's be honest, Inter Miami doesn't have the money to pay Messi the type of salary that he can command, right? But when you talk about profit sharing with Apple, profit sharing with Adidas, potential ownership in the Inter Miami team, I don't think, obviously, it's not all the way Saudi money, but it's close enough to where, you know, he's comfortable with it. You know what I'm saying? And so Barcelona just, you know, they would have had to gut that team in order to bring him over. And I think he mentioned it today in his press conference or in his little announcement that he was scared of being in the same situation he was 2 years ago, where really, because of financial fair play rules, that the team, you know, they would have been handcuffed, so it would have been messy, but they wouldn't really have had the resources to surround him with the type of team. But yeah, he went to Miami. I think it's going to take the MLS to the next level. For an example, today, they come play Atlanta United in September. Those tickets in the lower bowl were $39 a pop. Those same tickets are now going for $550 the last I checked, and I think they might even be more expensive now. So there's definitely going to be an economic boom to the MLS and, you know, to the league as a whole. I think it's going to help. And I think it'll help the visibility, especially with another, you know, and I mentioned it at the time, with the World Cup coming to the US, was it 2025, 2026? Whenever it's coming, I think he'll be a part of that. He'll be a face of that movement here. And I think that's only going to lead to more endorsement possibilities and more revenue for him. So I think it makes sense for him.
Yes. I mean, I think this was Lionel Messi's, the individual, his like last choice of the three. I think he wanted Barcelona. To like piggyback off what you said, what happened last time was he agreed to go to Barcelona. They had no idea if they could register him or not. They had no idea if La Liga would approve it or not. They offered him a deal. He accepted. La Liga said no. He wound up at PSG, which was like, I think he even said it himself, like the first season was like really tough on him. You know, his kids were getting bullied and stuff, which is like, I mean, it's a fair reason to want to leave a place, but just, you know, the fact that him and his brother like both threw that in there just like made me chuckle a little bit. Like Messi doesn't need the reason why he's going anywhere. You know what I mean? But I think this was his wife's choice. I don't think the way he left Barcelona, I always kind of felt like it was unrealistic he'd ever go back, especially with the financial fair play stuff. And I don't think she wanted to live in Saudi Arabia.
No, yeah.
Like I really think it boiled down to like, where does she want to live? honestly, it's a year-to-year contract, 3 years, allegedly 3 years. The official like years hasn't come out on it, but it is year to year. I think he's going to go there. I think he's going to spend the World Cup's 2024, 25. Because this one was what, 2021 technically. So I think it's 2024. So I think he sees that out, basically. Actually, it's 2025. Math on that makes no sense. But I think he sees that out. So I think he spends 2 years there. And I think the whole 2 years he's there, he's going to try to convince her to go to Saudi Arabia. I really do think that. It's a very creative contract that they gave him. And ultimately, it's extremely lucrative. But if he wanted, like, the whole ownership in an MLS team, specifically in Miami, like, that's cute. He could have bought the MLS with his Saudi Arabia contract. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
true. But to your point, his wife would have been living inside of a golden jail cell. You know what I'm saying? Because especially we saw what happened with Ronaldo. The government had to make a special allowance for his girlfriend to even live with him, right? So it's like, I think she saw that as like, yeah, no, I have no interest in being a prisoner of my own castle. You know what I'm saying? Whereas in Miami, she can have the lifestyle she wants, raise her kids the way she wants. So it makes sense, right? And at this point, I mean, yeah, the money's there, but I mean, it's Messi. He'll find their quality of life is not drastically changing in any meaningful way. You know what I'm saying? So I get it. But I do think if he had his choice, probably would have been Barcelona. But you know, there was a lot of hurdles to clear, and I just don't think, you know.
I mean, he said his choice was Barcelona. And I think the fact that he reasoned why he isn't going to Saudi Arabia makes me think, like, as quickly as like 24 hours ago, he was probably going to go to Saudi Arabia. And then she was kind of like, listen, it's me or there type of thing. And I think...
but I think some reporting came out today that, like, as little as like a day ago, like, the Saudis were ready to, like, send the jets and welcome him there. And then at the last minute, it was just kind of like, no, it's not happening. You know what I'm saying? So, and, you know, you mentioned something in the group chat about maybe the money wasn't real. Look, if they're giving $100 million to Nikola Conte, then whatever they're offering Messi is very much real. You know
no, I was saying that the I don't think the MLS money is real. So, like, I think they're promising him, like, who knows the number, but I'm gonna say hypothetically, like, up to $1 billion, right? Via all this stuff. But it's like, there's a ton that has to happen for you to get to that billion. Versus the Saudis, it's like, yo, you're 1.6, like that hits on the first. You know what I mean? Like, so that's why I think it's like, if America's able to come through with every promise they're making him, and like, who knows what goals Apple TV is gonna have to hit, or Adidas is gonna have to hit, or the price point that they're gonna sell an MLS team to him for. It probably won't be Inter Miami. That's Beckham's team, right?
Yeah, it's Beckham's team, yeah.
Yeah, so he'll probably get like Orlando or something like that, like a different team in Florida, obviously. But the price point of that would be a major key. But like, I think it's gonna be something that it's like year to year, where it's like, obviously, I think he survives the first year because it's gonna be an influx of new viewers. It like you said, ticket prices are gonna skyrocket. If they're smart, they give him a cut of that. Who knows? But
I think the wild card is Apple, right? Because here's the thing. The subscriber numbers are all phony, right? Every subscription service releases their own subscriber numbers. We have no way of verifying if any of that's real. Apple TV can literally make up a number, whatever number they need to justify giving him whatever they promise him, they will make up, right? And there's no way that we can verify that information. So he's going to get his money. And again, it's Apple we're talking about, right? I don't think Adidas in and of itself would have been enough, but what Apple is like, look, just tell us what we need to make it happen. Because we don't know if, you know, we know that Apple TV, I think, yes, they're starting with MLS, but maybe they're interested in World Cup coverage. Maybe they view this as a vehicle to gain live rights for other sports. Again, this is all part of it's bigger than just Messi. But I think what Messi gives them is credibility, because to your point, the MLS is not giving them credibility in and of itself. But Messi and potentially, you know, we don't know what for down the road Champions League or other tournaments, you know what I'm saying? Well, the Super League, there's a lot of unknowns right now that Apple TV is going to want to have its hand in, and I think Messi is kind of like the gateway to, to that avenue. They just need to be associated with soccer, and the MLS isn't enough, but Messi, the name, and all that entails, and the build up to the World Cup can help, get them what they're looking for.
The reason I think it's year to year is like, I think the first year is going to be phenomenal. Like that's where probably 80% of his money comes in, specifically from Adidas and Apple TV. But like, if what The Athletic wrote is true, like the framework of the Apple TV thing is like new subscribers. So it's like year to year, obviously the first year is going to be huge because I don't even know how long the MLS has been on Apple TV.
This is the first year.
This is the first year. So it's going to be massive. Like he's going to make a ton of money this year. But the second year, he might not make that much. And I think he sees the World Cup out. But here's where it gets interesting, right? Like the World Cup's obviously why this decision makes sense. Like that's like the key to it. I think Saudi Arabia might host a World Cup here soon. And I think the credibility they're going to get from being like essentially in charge of the PGA Tour. Like, I don't want to go dive too deep into what happened between PGA and LIV, but if that merger goes through, especially with now the Department of Justice is saying, look, PGA, you guys might not be able to keep your 501c3, the nonprofit exemption, which would mean they become fully profit. I mean, there's nothing more fully profit than LIV, right? In terms of like money. So they now have, not only are they extremely credible within European soccer, everybody wants Saudis to be the owners of their team. Like literally, I mean, the two of us like beg for it with Arsenal and Tottenham, right? Like, and now they have an extreme amount of credibility in America with, one of a billion-dollar sport. The rumors of them owning the Knicks. The next step would be them hosting a World Cup. I think it only makes sense that like that Saudi Arabia door isn't closed versus the Barcelona one is completely closed. Like they're talking about making a tribute. Like it doesn't sound like, I'm sure he'll probably play like his last game will be like a July friendly with Barcelona where he plays with like the 15-year-olds or something like that. But the whole notion of him being like a Barcelona player again, like that's all over. So I think it's going to be year to year. I think every summer is probably going to be not the greatest feeling for the MLS because, this is the best deal they can offer. This is the most money they can offer specifically this season. And ultimately, Saudi Arabia topped it this year. And if you think they topped it this year, imagine what they're going to do next year. So it'll be interesting what happens year to year. But this is a massive, massive get for the MLS, and we'll see where it goes from there.
It's huge. And even honestly, for Miami to be in a position to where it's even possible, right? To where they could even be option B or option C. They had to do a lot of work with that stadium, and a lot of shit had to fall into place. And shout out to them for getting it done because, look, Miami's not really a huge sports hub. It's too many transients there. There's, even the Heat. Look, we make fun of them because their crowd shows up at halftime. You know what I'm saying? And they're gone. Like it's to make that happen in Miami. But yeah, shout out to them. But what's next?
Shout out to them, and they pulled it off. I think it's a big get. I just want to quickly talk about the PGA versus LIV stuff. Like you were pretty pro LIV, like from day one. I was anti LIV.
I was pro LIV in that look. To me, I still stand by it to this day. I think the exodus of players to LIV would have been a lot more massive had Phil Mickelson simply not had that disastrous press conference where he was pretty much saying like, look, yes, it's blood money, but it's a shit ton of blood money. So I'm putting my morals to the side. If he just shuts the fuck up and they just, because at that point, remember, the PGA, all the players were pretty much complaining like, yo, the PGA Tour is doing us dirty. We're underpaid. The revenue sharing isn't right. Like none of these numbers make sense. The money distribution isn't right. Everybody was kind of like, yeah, it makes sense why they would want to go to LIV if they're throwing his bag at them. And then Mickelson just put his foot in his mouth. And then that's when you saw a lot of players who were going to go. All of a sudden now they stopped. And then that gave people like Rory the opportunity to kind of stand on their pedestal and, preach all this moral high ground bullshit. And even like the commissioner, like, hey, I challenged the PGA Tour players. Have you ever had to apologize for being a member of the PGA Tour? And it's like, bro, they're like the NCAA to me. Like, no one should be shedding a tear for the PGA. Like, they were fucking corrupt and they were doing players dirty and shit. But yeah, I mean, the money won, right? And it was always gonna happen.
Yeah. I mean, so this is why I wanted to talk about it. I don't actually think the money won. So here's what I think. Here's what I think happened. I had my gut feeling kind of felt this way. I mean, I'm not gonna like dive into my work history, but just having worked in certain channels, like when things happen abruptly, I kind of go on a conspiracy side of things, but the conspiracy normally turns out true because it's like the most realistic option. I think the feds found something. I think that's what happened because both parties have lawsuits back and forth, right? And the worst thing you can say about Saudi Arabia is out in the open. We know they hate women. We know they hate the LGBTQ community. We know they did 9/11. Like everything they do negatively is out in the open, so that they don't really care, right?
Yeah.
I think the PGA has some skeletons that the LIV lawyers and the Department of Justice like brought to the table. And LIV said, listen, we can do this merger. You still remain your own entity. You like nothing changes for you. You just allow us to have some control and these players to make more money. And no one knows what we know. And that's why I think you see the abrupt switch. And I mean, I'm a huge golf fan. Phil Mickelson said on the PGA Championship Sunday a few weeks ago, he's like, I know something no one else knows. Rory's temperament the last couple months makes me think Rory McIlroy knew and was like, yo, you sold me out to dry and I did it. And now look at, I cost myself $500 million and these dudes are going to be back on the tour here in a few months. Now we don't know the details of the merger. It remains to be seen if the LIV players can play on the PGA Tour officially. They will ultimately, but like at the moment, that's at least up in the air. I don't know if it'll happen this season per se, like based off the way they're talking, but the Department of Justice coming out today and saying like the PGA might not be able to keep their like tax-free form, like their nonprofit. I think they got some money laundering that they've been doing ultimately. I think all these leagues money launder. Like the NFL definitely money launders, but these other leagues don't have to worry about a foreign entity deciding we're going to attack these guys to drum up exactly all the bad stuff they've been doing. And I think that's just what happened. I think this smells like a lawsuit settlement, basically. Like, let's wash our hands, like everybody's clean type of deal.
We all know discovery is people's worst enemy, right? It's not even a trial. It's just a discovery phase. You know what I'm saying? And so much shit can come to light during the discovery phase that it's like, you know, and that's usually where you see settlements because you don't want the discovery coming to light. You know what I'm saying? But which by the way, I'll tell you a funny story about that after the pod. But no, it's hilarious. Discovery is hilarious. But yeah, man. But so the one thing that I did hear on Simmons' pod, part of the merger is that they're creating a for-profit, I guess, marketing sector. And that is how the Rorys and the Rahms and all those guys are going to get paid, right? Because they can say, we're going to give Rory a $300 million, image rights deal, which is complete bullshit. But that's kind of how they're going to make it up to them, because they're going to have to take care of the players that kind of stood ground, the Tigers who, gave up however many hundreds of millions of dollars. They're going to find a way to kind of pay them off and get them to shut the fuck up. So that way this thing can proceed smoothly. So that way it doesn't get any uglier than it has to. And then we'll just get back to just, the old golf that we were accustomed to. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah. What I find interesting and I'm curious about, like as a sports fan like yourself, LIV's done, right? Like that tour will cease to exist. Like this is probably the final season. That tour will cease to exist. Like the Saudis never actually cared about that tour. They cared about power, and they just got their power. Do we think they do that again?
Yeah, man. Money talks, man.
Like what sport or like league specifically do you think?
I don't think the NBA, only because of that new stupid ass tax apron that came in. That nullifies the Steve Ballmers of the world, right? Because it doesn't have much money. You're putting your basketball operations at risk. once you get your payroll to a certain threshold. So Saudi money means nothing in the NBA. I would look at a sport like MLB, you know what I'm saying? Where there's no salary cap. Now, because they're the owners do have significant power, you could see them join together to kind of keep that money out, knowing what somebody coming and spending that kind of money would do to them. Because let's be honest, like, what's the C word? The C word. When the teams get together and they decide on something behind the scenes.
Oh, I don't know the word. I know what you're talking about. I know what you're talking about.
But they collusion. In MLB, they collude. They collude to keep player salaries down. They collude to keep the minors leaguers in poverty. Like, there's a lot of collusion. So the owners are a lot more unified in baseball than, say, somewhere like football, to where it's pretty much like Jerry Jones and, the Patriots owner Bob Kraft have most of the power. Maybe the NFL. Now, the one thing we've seen in the NFL was that money is king. They will sell their fucking soul for $1. So if as some part of expansion deal, each owner gets to walk away with a fat check, I could see some Saudi money being introduced to the NFL. And the NFL has never been one for moral high ground. They don't give a shit. They give a fuck about bottom line. You know what I'm saying? So whatever, they could, and that helps everybody, right? If the Saudis come in and buy, like, I don't know, like the Jacksonville Jaguars or the Cincinnati Bengals for like billions of dollars over asking price, all that does is make Jerry Jones richer. Because they're like, if the Bengals went for $4 or $5 billion, what are you going to pay for the Cowboys? Or what are you going to pay for the New York Giants or the Steelers? And that would artificially inflate the value of all the other franchises by one of the bottom feeders getting sold for significantly more than what they're worth. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So maybe the NFL. Because other than that, I mean, they tried it with MMA, but you know what I'm saying? With the Fight Island and all that shit, but
So I got 3 theories. Boxing's the obvious one. I don't really know how that would work, other than people just fighting in Dubai a lot, which like already is going to happen anyway. You know what I mean? Like,
trying, but the problem is that because like they were offering Manny Pacquiao and Floyd like mad money to fight for the longest, but nobody has taken the bag yet. You know what I'm saying? The WWE did. They took the bag. You know what I'm saying?
I don't think that officially happened. I think so. They ended up not buying WWE, and the UFC, not the UFC, but the company that owns the UFC bought the WWE, WME or whatever, the media group.
Gotcha.
But my second theory is obviously the NBA, because of the worldwide exposure they have. Plus, I want to say there's 4 or 5 owners in the NBA that own English Premier League teams, at least on the minority level. Same with the NFL, for what it's worth. So it's like when obviously the owners have to approve of something, but if you get to the table and you got 5 votes already, it's like, I mean, imagine being the other ones that say no. You know what I mean? The backlash would be a lot. And then here's my conspiracy theory on Messi. I think they're gonna buy the MLS. I think they're just gonna be like, look, Messi, you didn't want to play for us in Saudi Arabia. All right, you're gonna play for us in America now.
I mean, yeah.
They want soccer. They want a World Cup. What they are doing is sports washing.
But do you think it would be easier if they just bought like the NWSL, right?
No, I think the MLS, because what they want more than anything is controlling rights on the World Cup in 2025 or 6, whatever year it is. Whatever year it is, doesn't matter. What they want is involvement in that, right? And that's why they've been gung-ho about all these Premier League teams, because the Premier League teams are going to be the ones that have the most players that are going into the World Cup, right? Yeah. And it's like, oh, PSG, no one cares about PSG. Same with some of these other teams. So the more control they can get over that World Cup, the better. Inter Miami now has Messi. A lot of those stadiums are going to be the same stadiums that host like World Cup games. Same with the NFL stadiums. Like, it makes sense. What all they're doing right now is sports washing. Everything they've done that's negative, we will forget about it because they will spend money on stuff we enjoy. There is nothing bigger than the World Cup. So the first step is get as much control on America as possible by 20 whatever, and then host your own World Cup. And then one day you'll have your own leagues, probably based in America still, but their money has an expiration date and they know it. So it's like they're going to throw as much as they can over the next 10 to 15 years before we're all driving Teslas instead of, driving gas vehicles. Probably longer than 10 to 15 years, but you get the point. Like, they don't have long to do what they want to do. So I think the MLS, I think that makes the most sense, I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah. And it's probably that price tag is probably feasible because they probably go for the cost of like the Cowboys. You know what I'm saying? So you can buy the Cowboys or you could buy the entire MLS. You know what I'm saying?
They could probably get the MLS if you combine Ronaldo and Messi's contracts.
Right.
Honestly. Honestly. I think they valued Inter Miami at $600 million today. They offered Messi 1.6 billion. Like $600 million, that's a good chunk of change. But if that's the team with Messi, so it's probably top 3 highest value. Like, there's going to be teams that are probably valued at like that Kansas City team is probably like 35 million.
Yeah, no,
it's nothing.
Absolutely.
But so I'm gonna be honest, I don't know much about this Zion situation, but Twitter's blowing up.
Yes.
I'll let you explain it.
So it came out that he posted a picture, like I guess a baby reveal picture with like a known, like, let's call it an online thought, you know what I'm saying? She's everybody's friend. But, she's one of those women that did a lot of things like to try and gain attention and traction, but she was, lower class, nowhere near like even a Brittany Renner. Like Brittany Renner is miles ahead of where this chick is at. She was messing with like the likes of Boozy and stuff like that, like just real bottom feeder-ish. So they just clown her because like she got her comeuppance, you know what I'm saying? She found a sucker. And then what happened was when that got revealed, Mariah Mills, who I believe is a porn star, or at least,
So she has an OnlyFans. I don't think she does porn technically. Well, she's an OnlyFans creative.
Revenue. She went on like an 86 tweet thread, just pretty much, she was screenshotting Zion's Snapchat messages where he was like, look, I want to move you to New Orleans. Once you move down here, just tell me how much I got to pay you each month. Like, I just, and all the sexual texts and all that. And she was just getting very explicit about their sexual love life. And I mean, look, she thought she had a 100 multi-millionaire on the hook. And then she found out that somebody else got the bag before she did. You know what I'm saying? And then she ended it by saying, oh, and by the way, you better hope I'm not pregnant because I'm late on my period. So, that was like that was like to be continued. So now we're on the edge of our seats, like, well, is she pregnant? And if so, is it his? If not, are we going to have to wait 7-8 months for the paternity test? And, so it's just real messy. But the thing is, so with Zion, he was always made fun of for dating white women, average looking white women. And now that this was revealed that he's actually dating within his race, they're like, oh, I mean, but you could have done better than that. You know what I'm saying? So Zion is damn if you do, damn if you don't. He beat the white women allegations, but, it's like, look, he got taken advantage of by like the clear bottom feeders. You know what I'm saying? It's like, they just expected someone of his stature to be, in a different echelon of women, like dealing with like the Bernice Burgos of the world. You know what I'm saying? Like that level of, online fame, not, I mean, I think his baby moms maybe got 30,000 followers, which in internet fame is like nothing. You know what I'm saying? It's like, come on.
So the only tweet I saw was the other girl say that his baby mom's the reason he got fat. Is that like a different person or is that this woman?
That's a different one. I guess he has another child.
So yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm be honest, I don't know nothing about his personal life.
But apparently he does have another baby moms. That's the problem. I'm like, I don't know. The way she talked about it was as though it was a previous baby moms. Okay. And she's like, oh, I motivated you to get back in, because she didn't know about the existence of this woman until that picture. So I have to assume that the baby mother he's referencing was another one that clearly had instilled some kind of damage in him to the point where she needed to motivate him to get back into shape, which, by the way, she did a terrible job. You know what I'm saying? But, yeah, so Zion is getting dragged all over the internet today. Everyone's blaming it on CJ McCollum, A, for the terrible collective bargaining agreement the players signed, and B, for the fact he's not a veteran presence in that locker room. So, you know, today was one of those rare days where the funniest people on Twitter come together like Voltron to aim their slander at one person. And today that person was Zion Williamson, and well deserved. You know what I'm saying? Well deserved. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, I don't know what a vet's gonna do about you being horny. You know what I mean? It's not like it's not.
No, and then what made it funny was like he didn't even have a burner. His name on Snapchat is Zion Williamson, and his fucking avatar looks exactly like him. So it's like, man, there's not even plausible deniability. Like it's clear that that's you in the screenshot. You know what I'm saying?
The main thing that bothered me, as you know, I consider myself third team all scumbag. I mean, there's a reason to use Snapchat, and there's a reason to know when it says, hey, she saved the messages from the last blah, 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 to stop using Snapchat.
Exactly. You know when, but she was sneaky because some of them, she took pictures of them. So that way it wouldn't say that she saved the screenshot. She used a second cell phone to take a picture of the phone.
I did peep that, but if you see, like I said, third team all scumbag. But she was saved, like the way the color comes up. So from the ones I saw, she's been saving the messages to where like she can go back and see them for like future use. If he noticed that, he should just stop talking to her on that app, because the only reason to use Snapchat is genuinely because you have something to hide.
Well,
now she's also stupid.
First time he got caught. Remember when he was messaging that one white woman or white girl? She was also exposing his Snapchat messages back when he was at Duke. So it was like, clearly Snapchat's not for you. You got to use something more encrypted, like WhatsApp or Signal or something, or use a mediary, or maybe not a fucking account named Zion fucking Williamson.
It's just like the only reason to use Snapchat is because you're hiding something, and if you cost yourself the ability to then hide, it's like, why? You might as well just text her. It's easier. Saves battery. Like the only reason is if you're hiding something. She's crazy for thinking he wasn't hiding something by dating a man whose only form of communication with you was Snapchat. Like that's like, I mean.
Oh, no, she's not stupid. But what now was she's trying to leverage this situation to some sort of financial gain. In other words, I'm going to keep talking to make us all comfortable. That one of your representatives comes to me with an offer with an amount that will get me to shut up, so I go away. That's all that is.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Speaking of CJ McCollum and the dog shit collective bargaining agreement, his co-host in negotiating that, Chris Paul, is allegedly done with the Suns. He might be waived and re-signed, but it sounds like they're mutually trying to figure out like the best way to move forward. I mean, this dude's cooked. I'm gonna let you ISO this one, because I mean, this is probably the route for the Mavs to get Aiden as well. I just want to point out, we're about a year and maybe 2 to 3 weeks removed from Max Weezy, our fellow MMG member, telling me that Chris Paul has the same killer instinct as Steph Curry, and that not only will the Suns close out the Mavs in Game 7, they will move on to beat the Warriors in the Western Conference Finals. Since then, Steph Curry won a ring. He's still one of the best players in the league, and Chris Paul might be playing for the vet minimum on the Lakers here in a few weeks. So, I mean,
look. So I think somebody, my favorite game to play now, anytime that information like that is leaked out of nowhere, is who leaked it and what are they trying to gain? I think that Chris Paul became aware that the Suns are having trade discussions, and I think he leaked the fact that he was going to be allegedly waived to kind of take any sort of leverage away from the Suns to be able to command anything in return for him, so that ultimately they either approach him with a buyout situation or he's able to control his own destiny to where he winds up next. So I think he leaked that to Chris Haynes, saying that he was going to be waived. And then I think the Suns try to do some, who probably had trade negotiations on the table, were kind of like, whoa, we're still working towards finding a solution for everybody. And, for example, like somebody else mentioned, like, like a James Harden, Chris Paul signing trade situation. Like there's probably things like that on the table because look, from a basketball perspective, it makes no sense to just flat out waive Chris Paul. You're not going to get any savings against the cap this year. His entire contract is going to count against you. And that salary slot represents the best opportunity for you to continue to build around a Devin Booker and a Kevin Durant. So if you have a team out there who maybe has some vets or some ancillary pieces who are looking to clear some money off their books, maybe like the Washington Wizards, right? If they decide that they want to rebuild, okay, well, are there some players that could be useful to us on the Wizards to where they would benefit from Chris Paul being and expiring, and maybe we can take on some longer term money? Because you only got to get to 85% of that number. Mm-hmm. So they could still save some money in the first year and still be able to pick up rotation level players that could actually improve their depth. So from a basketball's perspective, it makes no sense why they would just flat out waive them. Stretching them doesn't do anything except save money against the luxury tax. But anytime you got Booker and you got KD, I don't think that new owner is not looking to shave the luxury tax bill. So waiving and stretching him doesn't make any sense. The best path forward for the Suns is to trade him. And so I think he was just trying to strip them of that and be like, you're not going to fucking send me to fucking Oklahoma City or some shit or somewhere I don't want to go. So I'm going to try and get the leverage back. They're just using the media outlets as a leveraging ploy, but I think ultimately he'll be traded. That's my guess.
I think none of it makes sense to me. I don't know what you trade him for, really. I mean, unless Boston was willing to give you Derek White, which I don't know what Boston would. I don't know. If I'm Boston, I don't know if I'd be willing to do that because you're probably gonna have to add Brogdon or Horford to that too. You know what I mean? So I don't really know what that solves from a Celtics perspective. The Lakers are mentioned in every trade ever. They have like 4 contracts on the books next year. So it's like what are they gonna do? They're not moving Braun or AD. You know what I mean? Like it just they don't make any sense. The Clippers make sense. But if I'm the Clippers, I don't know if I help Phoenix. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like the pieces you would move would make Phoenix more dangerous than Chris Paul makes you. So I don't know if I help them, but the Clippers make the most sense out of the group. Personally, I don't really care. I'm gonna be honest. I saw an interview Chris Paul did yesterday where he said his daughter gets bullied at school by little boys because he's ringless. I just want to tip my cap to those little boys. You're doing God's work. You're doing God's work.
Your daddy's never gonna win a ring. I mean, come on, right? Let me be very clear. I'm not against the bullying of children, but that's like when Westbrook said that his family was being threatened because they were telling his kids that their daddy was Russell Westbrook. Like, come on. I mean, come on. You know what I'm saying? Saying your daddy's not gonna win a ring, like, come on. Let's stop short of using the word bullying. You know what I'm saying?
I seen a clip. I seen a clip where it said Riley Curry pulls up to the school and goes like this.
But look, there are teams that Chris Paul definitely makes sense for. You know what I'm saying? I mean, shit, if James Harden decides to go to freaking back to Houston, it makes sense for Chris Paul to wind up in Philly. I mean, look, there's any number. We know what Chris Paul is and we know what Chris Paul's not. He needs a team that can withstand him playing maybe 35 to 40 games in the regular season. And you just hope that he's healthy enough in the playoffs to give you 25 to 30 quality point guard minutes and help take you over the hump. Because if he's healthy, yes, he's not the Chris Paul of old, but he can still run an offense. You know what I'm saying? Or at least get your playmakers and your best players the ball in a position for them to thrive. And so I'm not going to say that he's completely cooked, but he's not going to a team and turning their regular season fortunes around. That's why when you say a team like the Celtics, like, look, they can withstand him not playing there in the regular season, right? The Sixers can probably survive without Chris Paul being there most of the regular season. And then you just, pray for the playoffs. But yeah, it doesn't make any sense why they would just release him. It just literally no sense whatsoever. It would be the stupidest thing Phoenix could possibly do. And that owner, he's sharp. It
only makes sense if they have the ability to get off Aiden in a way we don't know and open up the slot to get Harden, right? Like, but I mean, you just brought up the idea of Chris Paul in Philly. If Harden tells Philly he's leaving, I mean, CP3 for Harden, like, obviously works numbers wise. Like, it makes sense. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think obviously Sham said that Harden's between Houston and Philly, which at this one point, I mean, that's just tampering. That's just blatant tampering.
And I mean, look, if I'm Harden, look, we can't put it past Harden to decide that he's done with a place so quickly. You know what I'm saying? Like, so he might be like, yo, I could go play with fucking Durant and Booker. Yeah, I'll go do that. You know what I'm saying? So Houston could be used as a fucking leverage, as leverage, So I think there's going to be a lot more movement this offseason than we're anticipating. Part of that is because of that tax tapering. I think certain teams are going to be looking to prepare themselves for that. And I think that a team like the Blazers, right? I mean, if Brandon Miller goes too and they wind up with Scoot Henderson, I mean, they've got their backcourt of the future ready. At that point, why, right? The Wizards, they could double down and they could give Porzingis an extension, or they could decide, you know what? If we can find a way to get off of Beal's fucking Supermax and get out from under Porzingis and kind of truly rebuild and maybe sign and trade Kuzma for something, like there's potential for a lot of teams to make movements.
You know what? CP3 in Washington, I don't hate, because they're not gonna get off Beal. They're not gonna get rid of, like, we know what they're gonna do. They're gonna middle, right?
Yeah.
They have a ton of leftover contracts and a ton of wings. Like, Kuzma's a good fit next to Book and KD, because he can get his own bucket and he's a good spot up shooter. He's a good rebounder. I don't hate that. I mean, obviously, like, that's not the contender he wants to go to, but, like, I mean, listen, if your dog is getting bullied because you ain't won shit, you can't just pick and choose where you go at the end of the day either. You know what I mean? So, like, I think if I'm Phoenix, I'm going to do what's best for us. If Boston or the Clippers want to throw us a bone and give us a bunch of wings, then sure. If they say no, Washington makes sense. I think Orlando makes sense. I think Detroit wants to start winning now. He can go play for his old coach. You know what I mean? Like, there's a couple teams that have, like, leftover wings that I don't think are, like, phenomenal, but they make sense next to KD and Book, whereas they don't next to, like, Cole Anthony or, Cade Cunningham. Not that Cade's bad, but.
And maybe the Magic want to get out from underneath Jonathan Isaac or something, right? Maybe that's the type of player that can theoretically fit. Again, there's any number of teams. And look, we saw with Westbrook, right? On the right team with the white role, he can make an impact. I feel the same way about Chris Paul. So he can be a mercenary. I think he's at that stage in his career where, as long as he's being treated as a mercenary and you understand that he's not somebody that you build around, he's just somebody that you take a chance on and hope that he can help take you to the next level in an extended playoff run, then yeah, you know what I'm saying? But I think that's why he's hoping that they approach him with a buyout or they do waive him, because then he can just go sign for the minimum wherever he wants. You know what I'm saying? He can go sign with the fucking Lakers on a minimum. You know what I'm saying? Or he can go sign on any number of teams. So I think that's what Chris Paul wants, but I don't think that's what Chris Paul is going to get, right?
Yeah.
So,
I'm going to be honest. I don't think he can help anyone. I think he's a perennial loser. The little kids at his daughter's elementary school are correct. But moving on to a guy that isn't a loser, Nikola Jokic. The Nuggets just took a 2-1 lead. Well, not yet. There's 3 minutes left, but they're up 15 points. So, is this the flukiest run you've ever seen from a team? Does it matter?
Not fluky.
I mean, they played 3 play-in teams.
No,
that's crazy. Like, that's crazy. That is like, it doesn't matter. My answer is it doesn't matter. It's not like Nikola Jokic told all the Bucks to lose, the Celtics to lose, the Warriors to lose. Like, he didn't tell them to lose. And for what it's worth, I think they win the championship regardless. They were my pick before the playoffs when I thought they would have to go through a gauntlet. So it doesn't matter. Playing 3 play-in teams is crazy. That's crazy.
Regardless of who would have won, I felt like it would have felt like that's the reason why even up until right before the playoffs, I felt like if PG was healthy, I was sticking with my Clippers pick to win the title, because it was just one of those years, right? That the right team getting hot at the right time. there was no team that was unbeatable, right? There's no fucking Warriors of 3-4 years ago, like any of these teams, right? So it's like, as unlikely as this finals matchup seemed, it's like, oh, what also makes sense? None of us trusted any other teams. You know what I'm saying? So, but I think for Jokic, it will be remembered because he has been dominant, right? So it'll be like that Mavericks run with Dirk, right? Were the Heat a better team? Absolutely. Were the Mavericks one of the all-time best teams, or would I stack those Mavericks up against any of the other champions from the last decade and a half? Absolutely not. But Dirk went on the type of run to where it was like he won that title. You know what I'm saying? No matter the circumstances, no matter what you want to say, yes, LeBron choked, and yes, the Heat underperformed, but he also balled, and it was like, you got to give the credit where it's due. And Jokic is playing at a level where it's like, bro, he carried this fucking team, and he deserves all the praise that he's getting. So it won't matter for him personally. But
yeah, I don't take anything away from the Nuggets. It is crazy they're playing 3 play-in teams. There will be jokes made about that in the future, specifically if they fall flat next year. That's life, though. If you fall flat, there will be jokes following. That's just how it works.
It's also a year where like the 3-4 seed and a playing team were separated by like 2 games for most of the season.
Yeah.
So literally any of these teams could have wound up as a fucking playing team. So it's just, you want to label them a playing team, sure, but like, you know.
But we're not going to remember. We're not going to remember next year that it was a 3-game difference. So if they were to lose in the first round, and I say that they only won because they beat 3 play-in teams, it's just going to come out just like that, and no one's going to remember the details of that. So the jokes will be there. I think the Nuggets are phenomenal. I watched the Nuggets play, and you probably feel this way too as a Mavs fan with how depleted your roster was. I watched the Nuggets play, and I'm like, yo, how did the Warriors wind up with Anthony Lamb and Ty Jerome in the rotation, right? Like, these dudes have wings that don't get burned that would be, like, well within our rotation, right? So it's like, and it's not like they had cap space. Bruce Brown's on the minimum. Jeff Green's on the minimum. Christian Braun was, like, a late first-round pick, maybe early 20s. Like, they didn't do anything special to build this roster. They just built their roster with what the cards that were like dealt to them, and they fucking hit a black.
Like literally just team building, right? And even like you look at the move for KCP, underrated move. You know what I'm saying? They continue to build around the margins while, by the way, ducking the luxury tax, right? So it's like they just showed that, like, yeah, you can moves on the margins matter if your star is transcendent. If you have a true superstar, of which there are only, like we talk about all the time, maybe 5 to 6, and that's being mighty generous, right? If you have a transcendent true superstar, building around the margins matters. If your best player is Bradley Beal, you can build around the margins all you want, but those moves are not going to take you to that next level. But if you have Jokic, if you have a Luka, if you have a fucking Giannis, then yes, building around the margins matters, because those players are good enough to maximize the talent around them and take the team up to a level to where they can actually, in the right year, if things fall the right way, contend for a title.
Yeah. I mean, they're the best team in the league. The Bucks are probably a close second. Obviously, like, there's a ton that went on with that team in the first round. But like, I'm talking about on paper, top to bottom, they're the best team in the league. I watched the first game. Admittedly, I missed the first half of game 3, and I didn't watch a ton of game 2. But I remember watching the first game, and I'm like, respectfully to the Heat, like, they had a hell of a run. They got a game. I didn't know how they were going to get a game watching that first one. I honestly felt like Jokic was playing that game as if it was a back-to-back against Detroit in February, and he had triple-double.
It was Spoelstra, right? Spoelstra's one of those. He's probably the best coach in the league, let's be honest, right? And so he finds ways to gain, small advantages throughout the course of the game for his team. And if enough shots fall, it makes all the difference in the world. My whole thing, right, to speak to the Nuggets and their run, right now, gunning ahead, if I said, who's winning the title next year, who would you even say? Right? Like, who do you
without any moves being made, I would say Milwaukee.
Right, and they're losing Brook Lopez, right? Like, we know that he's probably he's probably gone. Are they going to want to pay him a market value contract and go into the luxury tax after we saw that after winning the title they made a luxury tax ducking move? I don't know.
I don't know if they have a choice. Oh yeah, I don't know if they have a choice on that one.
Maybe.
Because Giannis's deal, the thing is they made the luxury tax ducking move a year after Giannis signed a 5-year extension. We're now 2 years away from him being a free agent again. So it's like it's a different mindset. You don't have that security anymore.
No, I agree.
And Middleton is a free agent this year too. So it's like if you choose not to pay Lopez, Middleton says, "Hey, I'm a walk.
Give me the bag."
Yeah,
but
now Giannis is for sure gone. 2 dudes leave, Giannis is for sure gone. So I feel like they will pay the luxury tax for Brook, to be honest.
But do they pay both? Do they pay Middleton?
So.
Because there's no.
I don't think they have a choice, man. I don't know.
Maybe you're right.
Maybe,
but even then, we've seen that if Middleton is a Middleton, clearly that team can be beat, right?
Yeah.
So even that, you say that through gritted teeth. Who would you say second?
Nuggets or Warriors?
That's what I'm saying. And even then, it's like, bro, look, the Nuggets are on a nice run, but you know what I'm saying?
And I only say Warriors because I don't think they'll make the same mistakes they made this year. But like that's assuming they do. Like everyone else outside the Bucks,
keep the big three together.
Well, they'll be back. They'll be back. It's more so everybody else, right? Like I'm assuming they won't go into the season with a bunch of young guys. They might. If they do, then my answer would change, right? Like if Poole's on the team, Kuminga, Moody, my answer would change. I'm assuming they won't be. Specifically after that Kerr interview on the Draymond show, like I definitely don't think Poole and Kuminga will be on the team. That was wild. It's a different topic though. But yeah, I would say Bucks, Nuggets, Warriors, and 2 of the 3 I think have to do stuff. Like I think the Nuggets have to make additions. Bruce Brown's probably out of there. KCP, I don't trust a ton. I think if I'm being completely honest, they're gonna win. Jokic is gonna. Where's he from? Serbia. He's going to have the wildest summer in Serbia we've ever seen an NBA player have. He will be 50 pounds overweight to start next season. They're going to need someone to get them to the playoffs because Jokic, we're not going to see anybody fatter than the Jokic that's going to show up next season.
He's definitely playing himself into game shape next season.
Oh, yeah. It's going to make what Harden did in Houston when he went to Brooklyn look like Harden was skinny. Like it's gonna be nasty work what Jokic does this offseason. So I think I don't trust the Nuggets. I don't trust the Warriors. Who knows what the Bucks do? There is no real answer, to be honest. There is no real answer.
That's what I'm saying. Like and there's so much movement. I don't think the best team for next year has even been assembled yet, right? I think once all the dominoes fall, then we may decide, you know what, this is the title favorite to enter next year, right? We don't know what's going to happen with LA. You know, we don't know what's going to happen in Phoenix with Chris Paul. You know, are the Heat. You know, we don't know what's happening with the Raptors. Are they making moves, right? If OG goes to the right team, if Fred VanVleet goes to the right team, that could maybe shift it, which in a normal year, maybe in a vacuum is not enough to where you're like, oh yeah, that next team is a title contender. But for the right team, maybe, you know what I'm saying? Or at least maybe it throws another team into that fucking carousel of, you know, mediocreness that could ultimately contend for a title. But yeah, man, NBA, and I think it's only going to get worse, man. When you look at some of these teams, like Jaylen Brown's out of there in Boston, bro. Like, there's no way with that new tax apron that they can afford to pay Tatum and Brown $100 million combined. They just can't, right? You look at the Clippers, like, how long are they going to pay Kawhi and PG for, right? You look at the Suns, like, bro, with KD and Booker on the contract, they have to get out from under Ayton if they want to build around them for the next 3 years, right? They got to get off from Ayton. What does that look like? Like a lot of these teams, you look at the Nuggets, they're probably better off trying to find somebody to take Michael Porter Jr. off their hands, right? Because is he good enough to command that kind of salary with that tax apron that's coming next year? I don't know, right?
So that was going to be my next question. Because the one name I think we all agree that's probably going to get moved is Dame. Even CJ said Dame's out of there. The team Dame verbally said the Heat, right? Is there anything they've shown you in this playoffs to where if they were to get Dame Lillard, they would be the favorites next season?
Who?
The Miami Heat.
With Dame?
Yeah.
They'd be in the mix. Yeah, I think so.
I think Spoelstra's a better coach without stars, honestly. I think his play style, the way he coaches, doesn't fit those personalities. It didn't work. Like, they won 2 championships and everyone has the dick ride LeBron, so we have to pretend that was a success. That was a complete failure. And a large reason they failed was those personalities didn't mesh with Spoelstra and Riley, right? Outside of D-Wade. Bosch and Braun both had issues that they mentioned. So I don't know if I like Dame on that team. The reason I find that trade interesting is that's the only landing spot that I don't think involves the Warriors facilitating the trade. I think Milwaukee, Boston, or Phoenix, the other 3 rumored teams, would require the Warriors to come off of Poole and Kuminga to like, because why, if you're Portland, why would you trade Dame for Drew, right? Why would you trade Dame for Jaylen Brown? Why would you trade Dame for Aiden? But if the Warriors are willing to give you the picks plus the kids to get the other piece that you don't want, and then you know what I mean, like. So the Heat are the one team that can do it on their own.
I don't hate the Brown though. I think
we don't hate Jaylen Brown.
I think he's young enough to where you can be like, you know what? Put him next to Shaden Sharp. Put him next to fucking Scoot. I don't hate that. But I think I agree. But I do think he turns the Heat into a contender just because what are the issues right now? They're a different team when Gabe Vincent's on fire or when Kyle Lowry's playing well. Now, why? Because Bam cramps a lot of their spacing and Jimmy Butler because he doesn't shoot threes. If you have to defend Dame from the fucking logo, then that makes life infinitely easier for Bam, infinitely easier for Butler. You know what I'm saying? And you're not relying on Gabe Vincent and Kyle Lowry to have outlier games for you to be able to score enough points. But yeah, I think in that Eastern Conference, I think he turns them into contenders. And
he makes them better. I didn't mean to cut you off, but I didn't want to come off like I think he makes them worse. I just think even though they become a better team, the personalities don't fit with Spoelstra. So some of the things Spoelstra's done to get them to this point, he would either have to change or they would have to, you know what I mean? Like it presents a problem.
Because that's Jimmy Butler's team. Right. And so from a personality standpoint, I get it. I think they take on the personality of Butler. I would be interested to see, but maybe, I don't know. I don't know the relationship if Dame and Jimmy have a relationship.
I think they do.
But if they do, right, then I think Jimmy is more than happy to hand the reins over to Dame because we know Jimmy during the regular season, he wants to coast. You know what I'm saying? He comes alive in the playoffs, and I think come playoff time, having another alpha out there with Dame, I think it could make sense, but we'll see.
It's interesting. The last thing I wanted to say, I'm so sick of coaching takes during the playoffs. Mike Malone's not that good of a coach. He has Nikola Jokic. He has the best team in the league. He has the best player in the league, and they're doing exactly what they're supposed to do by winning the championship. But because they're in the finals, all of a sudden he's a top 3, top 5 coach in the league.
Same shit happened with Bud, right?
Exactly.
It's like Bud was about to be fired, then they're going to run, they win the title, they signed to the extension. It's like, is anybody surprised Bud was fired? No. He's the same coach that was on the verge of being fired, but before they won the title, like, we know Malone's not a good coach. We know this. You know what I'm saying? And the only reason that the first 2 games were competitive was because Spoelstra was coaching circles around fucking Malone, right? With a much less talented fucking team. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I agree. Yeah. But I do think that Spoelstra is worthy of all the hype and all the praise because he really squeezes every single drop of talent out of his fucking players. Because, like, Duncan Robinson is trash. Max Strus is not that good. I mean, Cody Martin, outlier shooting, but even that, I mean,
Yeah. I mean, listen, then when the Monty Williams contract came out, I was with some of my homies and they're like, yo, Monty just got 12. I said, give it a week and you're going to get a rumor that says Spoelstra wants 20. Like that's, if I'm Spoelstra, I'm not coming back for a dime underneath 20 million if Monty fucking Williams is getting 12. Just the reality of the situation.
And real quick, last thing, because I don't think we covered it. the whole leaking that Kyrie asking LeBron about. If any Mavs fans are watching this, that had nothing to do with the Mavericks at all. At all. That on the list of priorities on the list, like, bro, best case scenario is not that Kyrie wants LeBron to come to Dallas. That's not it at all. What he's signaling is, LeBron is trying to signal like, yo, my eyes are elsewhere, so give me what the fuck I want. And that means find a way to fucking pay Kyrie, because Kyrie is like, I'm not going over there for a fucking discount. All that shit that he would fucking go over there for the MLE, that's horseshit. Kyrie wants his fucking money, and LeBron is saying, you need to either bring me who the fuck I want or find a way to get me the fuck out of here. And if it just so happens to be Dallas that can pay Kyrie and swing a trade for LeBron, cool. But it's not about like, yo, we need to fucking be playing in Dallas. They don't give a fuck about where it happens. They just both want their end game, and it's possible that maybe that ends up being Dallas. But Mavericks fans need to just fucking relax a little bit. We're being used.
Listen, I've said it before on here. I'm gonna continue saying it. I think Bron winds up on the Warriors. I just think it makes the most sense. I don't think Kyrie said anything to LeBron. I don't think Kyrie talks to anybody. I'm gonna be honest. I think LeBron saw everybody saying how Kyrie and him teaming up makes sense. I think LeBron leaked this. I honestly think LeBron leaked this. Bron wants out. There's the rumors that they're not going to re-sign Anthony Davis to an extension, which is absolutely crazy. I understand the point.
Yeah, but did I not say that?
Yeah.
The whole season was about them growing comfortable with the fact that AD's not that guy. And LeBron sees that, the team sees that. And now what are we seeing? Leaks that they're not so his position's not a priority. I called it, just saying.
I don't think Bron sees that. I think Bron feels the opposite way. But front office probably feels one way. I think that ultimately there's a disconnect between front office, LeBron, and AD, right? Like this is the first separation of the Lakers front office and clutch that we're seeing since Bron got there. And Bron's getting desperate because he leaked. He tried to do the retirement thing, and then it came out too quickly that he was willing to play. Like 2 days later, it came out. And then it came out that if he had surgery, he'll be ready by the season. I don't believe either of the last two things, to be completely honest. I don't believe if he had surgery, I don't think there's a guarantee he plays at the beginning of the season. But now it's desperation mode. So Kyrie is the kid outside the burning house meme. So like when things get really bad, just play the Kyrie card.
And Kyrie has the Mavericks by the balls because they're like, well, right. You gave up what little you had for me. You're gonna give me exactly what the fuck I want, or I'm gonna fucking find a way to get the fuck out of here. So yeah, man. Look, with LeBron, believe nothing of what you see, nothing of what you hear. There's an ulterior motive to everything, and that was 1,000% leaked by LeBron's camp. Because what the fuck does Kyrie benefit from that? Right. He's not going to be able to extract more money from the Mavericks. He has maximum leverage at this point. The only person that helps is LeBron. And it's all because he's looking to manufacture the leverage that he lost when he signed that multi-year extension. That's the reason he always did the 1+1s, to always hold his team over the fire. He gave that away for long-term security, and now he's trying to extract leverage in a situation where his age, play, and decline in performance is taking it away. And that whole, if he has surgery, he'll be back by the regular season. That was the bad signal to the other teams, like, yo, come get me and I'll play for you. Don't shy away thinking that if you trade for me, I won't be ready till the All-Star break. Like, I'll be ready. Well, in fact, he probably won't be ready, but he just wants other teams to think he'll be ready so that if he wants to make a move, then, they sweeten the pot enough for the Lakers to fucking cave. But that's it.
Yeah, listen, he won't be ready. He don't want to be there anymore. I think the rumors of him and Draymond wanting to play together, I think is real. I think personally, I think the Draymond deal is already done. And the Warriors are just waiting for him to, it's going to be an opt-in plus add-on. So you have to wait out the timing of all that. Right. So then you start to get the Bron rumors. I mean, we'll see what happens after that. But I don't think Kyrie, I don't think Kyrie even has a damn cell phone, man. Like, I don't think this dude's talking to anybody. He's a lunatic. like, what do you mean? Like Kyrie's reaching out to LeBron. Like, I don't believe any of that.
Now, I think it's, Shams did throw him the bone with a lot of the way that he would put on the Kyrie Irving shit. So if he were going to leak it, it would be to Shams just because of all the twerking that Shams did for him. So that might be, or it could be LeBron, hey, you leaked this to Shams so that I have plausible deniability. You know what I'm saying? Because then people will make the connection that maybe it was you that leaked it. Because if I leak it to Chris Haynes or certain reporters, then they know who the fuck, you know what I'm saying? It's the same shit with the report today that we know it was Chris Paul that leaked it to Chris Haynes. We know this. We know this. You know what I'm saying? So again, that's my favorite game to play. Who leaked who to what? Who's being used like a fucking toy? And these reporters for retweets and clicks are happy to fucking be pawns in the grand scheme of things. But that's all.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the last thing I'm gonna say, then we can end it. PSA to Steph Curry. Mike Dunleavy Jr. is not a better GM than you. It's time to be le GM. Listen, it's time to be clutch in the Bay. Like, it's time. We cannot do the Mike Dunleavy stuff. Listen, just be the GM yourself. Start leveraging. I want you to threaten to leave every single offseason. I want to live the roller coaster that all these other teams live for the final couple of years of your career.
Mike Dunleavy Jr., like junior, the scrawny one.
Yeah, the one they drafted in like 01 or 02. He played on the Warriors.
I know the son. I was just making sure it wasn't the pops. I'm like, I know the pops old as hell.
Nah, so Junior's he's been the assistant GM the last couple seasons, I guess. So they've been grooming him. Bob Myers mad lazy. Like, obviously that's why he's leaving to go make money doing less work. So he never really went to like the GM meetings or like any of the stuff where like everyone goes to, and the Warriors just sent Dunleavy. So the assumption is when the contract's up, they'll just let Dunleavy be the GM and probably promote some of Lacob's kids, which is why we need to be clutch or unanimous, whatever your company is. Like, I want your agent running the show. It's over. I mean, it's just what's going to have to happen. But, listen, in the last month, you've missed an episode. I've missed an episode. Lurk's now missed an episode. Hopefully we're all back next week. Like, comment, subscribe. We out.